Okay, I reconnected. Can everyone hear me now? Okay. It was just a glitch. Okay, perfect. Well, you guys missed I was playing like some music and stuff and dancing. Okay, that's hilarious. I was talking to myself. Okay, so welcome everyone. There's people from everywhere, and that's awesome to see. So feel free to reconnect. Um, some people say no sound, but that might be old. I feel like overall, most people have sound and we're good to go, right? Okay, so let's talk about. Okay, so hit reconnect and it should be good. Okay, that always happens with these webinars, I feel like. Okay, so smallpox and monkeypox, knowledge is power. So that is one reason why I am having this webinar is because I want to empower everyone on what's going on with smallpox and monkeypox. Oh my gosh, that is literally a typo that I put moneypox and not monkeypox. I promise that was a typo. That's hilarious. Probably because everyone was saying it. All right, a little bit about me. I already went through this a little bit. Board certified integrative medicine physician and emergency medicine physician, owner and medical director at Flood Med, and author of Eat, Sleep, Move, Breathe, a beginner for a healthy lifestyle. This webinar is for information only. It is not medical advice. Please contact and consult your personal physician. And I am an owner of Healthology by Dr. Jen. Okay, so the whole thing with this monkeypox and smallpox is they're in the same family, okay? So we're going to talk a lot about orthopox viruses and the different kinds. And they are oval brick-shaped particles with a geometrically coagulated outer surface, and they range in size from 220 to 420 nanometers long and 140 wide. It's considered an actual larger virus because it is a DNA virus. And these viruses, so COVID was an RNA virus, this is a DNA virus. So they're not as smart, you would say. They don't have as many different strains. They don't mutate as rapidly. So that's all good news. So some different ones are the variola virus, and this is the causative virus of smallpox. We have monkeypox virus, cowpox virus, and then Vaccinia virus, which is the one that is used with the vaccinations. This is what they look like. So a little bit different look to the other virus that we've seen over the past 2 years. So they have that lateral body. They have the inside and the outside envelope, which a lot of them do that. Okay, hold on one second. So downloads, you should be able to click on downloads to the right of the screen, and those are live. And if you don't have sound, just hit reconnect and then you should be able to hear sound. And then downloads to the left. Okay. So smallpox, what is it exactly? So that's what it looks like there on the right top of the screen. It's caused by the variola virus. There's due to the vaccination, there's actually no cases of naturally occurring smallpox since 1977. And currently the smallpox vaccines, they're not recommended for the general public because smallpox has been eradicated. And this has been one of the most devastating diseases known to humanity and caused millions of deaths before it was eradicated. Severity of the disease correlated with the rash burden, also more severe in children and pregnant women, which is the case with a lot of other viruses. The case fatality rates for variola major varied with the type of disease manifested, but it was around 10 to 30% in various outbreaks that have been recorded. So remember, this was like a long time ago that we dealt with this, so the mortality rate was higher then. So eradication, the smallpox vaccine, it was created by Edward Jenner in 1796, and it was the first successful vaccine to be developed. So this was a story about how he watched milkmaids that had caught cowpox before, And then they did not catch smallpox. So it showed that a similar inoculation could be used to prevent smallpox in other people. And this kind of is how vaccines were made. And in 1980, this was after the last case was in 1977. The World Health Organization declared that smallpox had been eradicated. So historical data, because we're looking at this historical data, because there hasn't been an outbreak for a while, it suggests that smallpox is not highly transmissible. It's not caught easily between people, and that high population densities are required to sustain that transmission. So it should like fizzle out, right? Humans are the only known reservoir for the virus. So if it's eradicated, why would it come back, right? So let's talk about the actual disease itself, the incubation period. So incubation period means you don't have symptoms. The virus is just in there, it's replicating, but you're not having the symptoms yet. So it could be 12 to 14 days, so up to 2 weeks. The prodrome, so this is before a rash, what you're gonna see, high fever, malaise, and then you're going to have a headache and backache after that. So kind of flu-like symptoms, right? That's what a lot of these viruses do, because this is what your immune system produces to fight the virus. So transmission, or how you can contact it: broken skin, respiratory tract, or mucous membranes. There's also concern of, specifically with monkeypox, we'll talk about this, sexual contact and that causing it. So on macropapillary rash, I'll have some pictures. It appears on the mucosa of the mouth. So that's the moist part of the mouth, and also the back of the throat, or the pharynx, the face, and the forearms. Okay, so it starts there and then it spreads to the trunk and the legs. Within 1 to 2 days, it becomes more vesicular, so more like a vesicle or clear fluid filled circle. And then it's pox later pustular, it's called. So then you get that pox-like look where it kind of like hardens over. And they're round, firm, and deeply embedded in the skin. Then you get the crusting that begins to form after a week almost. And then you have the little eschars later separate. So what those are basically like big scabs. So they're healing scabs, and then they'll eventually come off. But because they're so deep in the skin, they're going to leave pits and scars. And lesions are not found on the palm and soles. So we have like hand, foot, and mouth disease. We have characteristic rashes that are on the hands and sole, but smallpox, they're not. So that's what they look like. And we've never really had to see that. People my age, even, really my parents really haven't had to see this. So because it was eradicated. So the virus, it initially affects the immune and respiratory system, where it multiplies and it spreads. So it's spread through lymphatics, and it causes this viremia, where you have the virus all over the body. And then you have a secondary viremia. So this is why they think that it has a high mortality rate. I came across this study. I dug in a lot of studies because there isn't a lot of readily available information with smallpox. So these studies are really cool if you want to go back and read them. So this shows, it talks about this study. They looked at variola and monkeypox viruses, and what they do is they inhibit type 1 interferon. And type 1 interferons, they activate our intracellular antimicrobial, basically program and influence the development of our innate and adaptive immune responses. So it's basically going in there, like literally like a computer virus, and like hacking our body's immune response. Okay, and this is what's concerning. So this is type 1 interferon. You can see it. Natural killer cells are activated, interleukin 6, different cytokines. And this is how it works. If we have a type 1 interferon deficiency, or it's hacked somehow, then we have issues, and our body isn't going to fight the virus like it should. Okay, we have problems. It's all dysregulated. So this was an interesting study that showed just questions about clinical variola major. So this was in 2011, and I kind of highlighted the important parts. So this was after like a summary of the World Health Organization research on smallpox. There's still like a lot of issues this paper was talking about. It was interesting because it was talking about disseminated intravascular coagulation, and that they think that this being activated is the cause of the high mortality rate among pregnant women. And then also talking about ocular smallpox, when then people are left with blindness and they think it's partly the result of a vitamin A deficiency. And then also talking about joint destruction, which is common in children with smallpox, and that might be prevented by antiviral drugs. So very interesting. I'm sure more, I don't know how people are going to study this as effectively with smallpox because it is eradicated and it's just in specific labs. So we'll get more into that, but that is very interesting. So then this paper also talks about how, whether post-exposure vaccination can be performed without interference by an antiviral drug. So this paper written in 2011 is very interesting to me because when we talk about treatments or prevention, really that's what there is, vaccination or antiviral drugs. So they're saying, should we do post-exposure vaccination or is that going to affect an antiviral drug use? So and then talking about whether they should even be admitted to general hospitals because that is an increasing spread. Historically, more healthcare workers came down with smallpox unless they were vaccinated and the vaccine worked well. And then finally, political and ethical forces suggest that the destruction of the remaining stocks of live smallpox virus is now appropriate. So this was in 2011. They were saying that this would be appropriate to destroy this, right? And that didn't happen. So we're going to go more into detail. This is just a summary. Smallpox treatments and antivirals. The FDA approved T-Pox for the treatment of smallpox in July. The FDA approved Tebexa. Sorry, that should be July 2018. And Tebexa was approved June 2011. And then laboratory tests called Sidoxavir has been shown to stop the growth of the virus that causes smallpox and be effective in treating animals that had diseases similar to smallpox. And then Tecorimat and Cidofovir, are stockpiled currently by the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response. Okay, so monkeypox. So monkeypox, there it is on someone's hand. It looks about the same. It is a rare disease. It's rare. First discovered in 1958 in colonies of monkeys, okay? Then it crossed over. First human case was in 1970 in the Dominican Republic of Congo. It also belongs, as I said before, to the orthopox virus genus, which also includes the variola virus, and which causes smallpox, and the vacina virus, which is used in the vaccine, and the cowpox. And the case fatality rate was approximately 10% observed in unvaccinated persons, and the majority of the fatalities and most severe manifestations were in children younger than 5 years old. Okay, when we talk about monkeypox, about 85%, they're throwing around that number for vaccine that it would help the smallpox with monkeypox. So incubation period with no symptoms, similar to smallpox, 7 to 14 days, so about up to 2 weeks. So very similar prodrome, fever, malaise, headache, sometimes sore throat and cough. But the difference is lymphadenopathy. So swollen lymph nodes that distinguish it, monkeypox from smallpox. So that is, when you get swollen lymph nodes in your neck, under your arm, different places. So that is an interesting thing. Transmission, broken skin, respiratory tract, or mucous membrane. So same as smallpox. And also they are saying that these clusters right now, they're warning about men who have sex with men and possible sexual contact for these also. So then after the prodrome, you have a rash. So first on tongue and mouth, so similar to smallpox. So you have those macules, those bumps, and then turn into papules, vesicles, the clear fluid, and then pustules, which have like yellowish liquid inside, and then to the scabs. And this process takes about 2 weeks. So very similar to smallpox. Human to human transmission, as I said, it's spread skin, respiratory tract, but for monkeypox specifically, large respiratory droplets, they're thought of more. So monkeypox, I think I just have problems spelling this. I did that elsewhere. Monkeypox, money pox. I'm struggling, I guess, with this monkeypox. So now in the U.S., a resident tested positive for monkeypox on May 18th after returning the U.S. from Canada. And then in the last US outbreak was in 2003. A cluster became ill after having contact with pet prairie dogs that came in from Africa. So I thought that was very interesting. And then the prairie dogs like scratched them and they got monkeypox. And they like shut that down quickly. But I just thought that was interesting. So that's kind of where we're at, supposedly, with the monkeypox. Locally acquired is in the orange. That's where it's happening. That's kind of like it's there. It's rare, but it pops up, and then it's coming to other places. So large respiratory droplets, also intercourse, and then the illness lasts 2 to 4 weeks. In Africa, monkeypox has been shown to cause death as many in 1 in 10 persons, so about 10% mortality rate who contract the disease, not as high as smallpox. But the actual cause of deaths, like I spoke about, it's still kind of controversial for both of these, right? So prevention, Genoese was recently approved, 2 doses 4 weeks apart. Studies have shown risk of myocarditis and pericarditis, and there's an FDA download, not approved for patients under 18. The US, we did just buy millions of dollars of this vaccine on May 19th, after the first case since 2003 was found in the US. So 19 on that. Okay, so now this talk, so we're going to talk about medications, vaccines, and then like outside the box thinking, okay? And I want you to keep an open mind. It's a higher mortality rate than COVID. It's different. We don't know really I don't know how to treat this. It would just be supportive care, right? And then we have the vaccine, and then we have antivirals. So just something to think about. Always think about risk benefits. Always think about what is really the mortality rate. We don't know because it hasn't come over here. Neither of them have. Now, the medications for smallpox, we'll talk about them. They could be indicated, EUA for monkeypox. So we'll talk about that too. And this is where, in some circumstances, treatment approved for smallpox may be offered on a compassionate or emergency use, EUA, which we all know about now, basis. Okay. And, and I think that's what's weird about this and kind of frustrating for people. We don't, it's a virus, so it's supportive care. You can't give antibiotics. Antivirals are fine, but they have a lot of negative side effects in general. Cytovir is a broad spectrum antiviral with activity against several DNA viruses, including pox viruses. And it's been shown to stop the growth of the virus that causes smallpox and be effective in treating animals that had diseases similar to smallpox. But it hasn't been treated on someone with smallpox, or there hasn't been any clinical studies because smallpox has been eradicated. So I hope that makes sense. And this is more of an old school IV, antiviral, so different. So these next two are more of like the big players. So tecovirimat, TPOXX. So it was approved in July 2018. It's an inhibitor of orthopox viruses, the VP37 envelope wrapping protein, and is indicated for the treatment of human smallpox disease in adults and pediatric patients weighing at least 13 kilograms. So just not newborns, basically. Could be used under investigational new drug protocol to treat adverse reactions also from the vaccinavirus vaccination, which is common. There's a lot of people that get side effects from that vaccine and rashes and all sorts of things. So this is indicated. So this is an antiviral, okay? So it's crazy, the side effects. I don't know what else to say. So this is from the drugs label, and there's the link down there. You could read all of it. So carcinogenic, mutagenic, impaired fertility, carcinogenic, mutagenic, all of this. It's let's see. The big thing is if you read down in there, the abnormal sperm and decreased motility was observed also in male mice, possibly decreased male fertility. So we have that. This is interesting. I found this today when I was looking to see if there are any clinical trials just for fun. And there's a clinical trial on TPOX that started January 2020, and then it's supposed to end September 30th, 2024 in Oregon, in Corvallis, Oregon. And it was a phase 4 observational field study to evaluate safety and clinical benefit of TPOX in patients treated with TPOX following exposure to variola virus and a clinical diagnosis of smallpox. I don't know. Does anyone else find that weird? Hopefully everyone can hear me still. Okay. Is anyone there? Okay. Okay, good. People are saying weird. Okay. I was just worried that I figured one of my friends would text me if they couldn't hear me still. Okay. So anyway, that was just kind of weird. Don't know what that's about because it's been eradicated. Okay. So then we'll go to the next one. So this is Tembexa, okay? Brincytofoxvir. So this was by this Chimerex company, and it was recently brought out by Emergent Biosolutions. So I want you to remember Emergent Biosolutions because it comes into play later. I just think it's weird. So received FDA approval in June 2021. Tablets and oral suspensions approved for the treatment of smallpox. So it's approved for adult and pediatric patients, including neonates. So this brings in treatment of neonates, and it's just dosed once weekly for 2 weeks. It exerts an antiviral effect by acting as an alternate substrate inhibitor for viral DNA synthesis mediated by viral DNA polymerase. So this one's interesting. So it has black box warnings. This one seems a little worse. Increased risk for mortality when used for longer duration. So that's kind of interesting. Carcinogenic. And then male infertility. This is crazy. So based on testicular toxicity in animals, Tembexa may irreversibly impair fertility in individuals of reproductive potential. That's creepy. That's a little creepy. So I don't know. It just, these antivirals seem real risk benefit problem to me, especially when we're talking about male fertility and human race fertility going on. So that's Tembexa for you. So from the CDC, because these drugs were not tested in people sick with smallpox, it's not known if a person with smallpox would benefit from the treatments with them. However, their use may be considered if there's ever a smallpox outbreak. So Tagorivimab and Sadafovir they're currently stockpiled, okay, by the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, okay? So just kind of interesting. So basically, when you think about those 3 drugs, so we have some stockpiled just in case there's an outbreak. They have pretty significant warnings. They're pretty toxic, but they're there, I guess, as an alternative, So, and here's a nice summary slide. So this is the FDA approved first treatment for smallpox. The 2 that are like name brand by big companies are approved, and then are they available in the stockpile? So it's pretty interesting. So let's go into vaccines. So I was talking like with my parents, and then I was talking with these older gentlemen in the gym today, and most people that are 65, 60 and older, they're going to have the smallpox vaccine already. And they all have the scar, it's on their arm or it's on their hip. And they all got it. There was a huge campaign. I mean, they needed to eradicate smallpox. And I totally agree with this. It had a high mortality rate. It was devastating. So the replication component of the smallpox vaccine, so these two are ACAM 2000 and APSV. They can protect people from getting sick or make the disease less severe if they receive the vaccine either before or within a week of coming in contact with the smallpox virus. So this is a little bit different because it's a different kind of vaccine that we're used to, and you can get it if you've been exposed. Then you could be vaccinated, and that's going to help your body mount a better response while you're in that incubation period. So before contact with the virus, the vaccine can help you protect you from getting sick. And then within 3 days of being exposed to the virus, the vaccine might help protect you from getting the actual disease, okay? And if you still get it, then you might be less sick than an unvaccinated. Within 4 to 7 days of being exposed to the virus, the vaccine likely gives you some protection from the disease, but if you still get the disease, you might not be as sick. Once you've developed the rash, the vaccine will not protect you, okay? And that's when you would do more antivirals. So the smallpox vaccine is a live vaccine, and it's the vaccinia virus from the orthopox virus family, like we spoke about. And the smallpox vaccination can protect you for about 3 to 5 years. And historically, the vaccine's been effective in preventing smallpox infection in 95% of those vaccinated. So pretty good rate there. And with that 3 to 5 years, I've been looking at some things saying people that maybe got the smallpox vaccine, even when they were little, they'll have some degree of protection. So then the Strategic National Stockpile has 3 smallpox vaccines, and this is, when the government just because they were worried about this being used for biowarfare, and that's why we have this stuff stockpiled. So it's ACAM 2000, and then the Genoese, which is also known as the Immunovax or Invax. They're the only 2 licensed smallpox vaccines in the United States. There's also an Adventist Pasteur smallpox vaccine. It's an investigational vaccine that may be used in a smallpox emergency under EUA. So we'll go through all of these. ACAM 2000 is the live vaccinia virus manufactured by Emergent Biosolutions. So that is the same company that just bought up that TPOX, which I just thought that was interesting. So ACAM 2000 is indicated for active immunization against smallpox disease or persons determined to be at high risk, okay? So single dose by percutaneous route using the multiple puncture technique. So that's when you're getting inoculated, in your arm with the live vaccine. So you get this little, it looks like, what smallpox would do. And you are getting the live vaccine, and your body is attacking the site right there, making antibodies, and you get that scab there. So you get a scar, that junky looking scab, and this is a live vaccine. So if you got this vaccine and you were just rubbing someone's face around it, kind of like shingles, that rash, or chicken pox, right? So when you get this vaccine, it has to be covered. You have to dispose of the scab biohazard, so all of that. So ACAM 2000 does have a black box warning, and this is myocarditis and pericarditis. So suspect cases at a rate of 5.7 per 1,000. So with 95% confidence interval. Encephalitis, all kinds of things. The main concern is the myocarditis and the pericarditis when reading through the research here. So that's why this one, there was some excitement over it. And this was when I was more looking at actual CDC data. It was some PowerPoint. I couldn't find it after I found it the first time because I was going to share it. But they had a chart, and the old vaccine versus this new one, it just had less risk of myo and pericarditis. And these were because people are getting vaccinated still with smallpox vaccine, military might, or more so people that work in the labs, because there's still a lot of labs that are playing and messing around with this stuff. So they are vaccinated against it. So there's a manufacturer. Genoese is a vaccine indicated for prevention of smallpox and monkeypox disease. So for both, but only in adults. It's only approved for adults 18 years of age and older to be determined at high risk for smallpox or monkeypox. It's 2 doses 4 weeks apart. So 18 and over, approved for both. And these are people working with that. They're at high risk. Okay. I mean, that's the indication. Who knows if that indication will change? But I just think it's interesting because this vaccine's only 18 years of age and older. And then with the antivirals, they're all for younger kids, but then they have all that fertility warning. So it's a predicament. This is the 13 million freeze-dried monkeypox, smallpox vaccines ordered. So this is that vaccine that they ordered, the Juvavax, Immunovax. It has different names. So it's freeze-dried and it's the live attenuated vaccine virus, So it's just interesting. I know that they, it's approved for monkeypox and smallpox, and we have it all stockpiled. But really, if you look at how this disease pans out, it should not be spreading rapidly. And then this is the Adventist Pasteur smallpox vaccine. It's an investigational vaccine that can be used in a smallpox emergency under EUA. And this, they did studies, and the cellular immune responses to dilute and undiluted smallpox vaccine. It's effective smallpox vaccine. It induces strong humoral and cellular immune responses after primary immunization, even at dilute doses. So this is cool because it's kind of like the old school smallpox vaccines they used to have, where you can actually dilute it to get more doses out of a small amount. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so what choices do we have, right? It's tough. I'm not going to say all of this is easy. I'm not going to say that I have all the answers. I will say that we need to kind of like COVID, see what happens, work through it, be prepared, make a choice. If there was a huge outbreak of monkeypox and smallpox and we were seeing a lot of more high mortality rates, I mean, I think the vaccination might be appropriate then. You have to look at risk and benefits. When we look at vaccines, we can do detox from vaccines. Mostly it's from adjuncts, and it's also just to support our immune system through this tough time. Very much like you would support your immune system in times of high stress, in times of sickness. So when we look at vaccine like detox protocols, this is just kind of what I made up with COVID and spoke with some other practitioners about. So for adults, omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory, NAC to help glutathione and detoxification. You want your vitamin D, C, quercetin for its zinc ionophore properties, zinc, magnesium, and then I really like a product called InflamaShake just to help decrease inflammation and help gut integrity. And then afterwards, and so you want to do that a week to 2 weeks before, do all of that, and a couple weeks after. And then Binder Pro is really nice, and you want to take a capsule daily for 4 weeks and help bind up anything like any adjuncts that are in it. So for children, very, very similar. They can do omega-3 or cod liver oil, glutathione or NAC, vitamin D and vitamin C. And then the Binder Pro, same thing. They can just do less. And Epsom salt baths for adults too, kids and adults. So this is the part of the presentation where we're going to think outside the box, talk about some ideas, talk about some things I've read, some things I've learned with COVID, some things I've seen in patients. So botanicals. So the purple pitcher plant, it's a carnivorous plant, Serratia purpura. So this is, in December, I posted about this and I bought some from the Amish Ways people, which they're now all on back order. I think I bought seeds too, but they're really hard to grow. So anyone could grow this purple pitcher plant and you can make your own tincture from it, right? That's what you do with herbs and botanicals. You can make your own tincture, extract it, put it in alcohol, whatever. So why do we even talk about this? So there's a lot of cool papers. They're they're like from the 70s and 1900s. Oh, Ashley said Amish Ways had stock yesterday. So I just had this. I mean, my parents don't know. I always buy them stuff too in case they need it. So antiviral effects. So this is from paper and the references, and the interest in purple pitcher plant for its antiviral properties. In vitro evidence suggests that it inhibits pox virus replication during viral transcription, and they might protect against orthopox virus infections. So orally, pitcher plant is used for digestive disorders, particularly constipation, UTIs, as a diuretic, a cure for smallpox, diabetes, and to prevent scar formation. So this is from National Medicine's database. So this basically is where I go when I want to look up anything on botanicals. It has the most up-to-date information, dosing, all of that. So the mechanism of action, the leaf and the root contain sarcenia acid, tannin, resin, and alkaloid. So this also has some glycoside. So this is why it would be like hurting a virus, right? An antiviral. So it's been used for anti-diabetic effects, antiviral, and neurological effects. It's also mainly for some people use it as injecting for nerve pain. But the antiviral effects, they talk about that same study that I saw. But there's insufficient, evidence reliable for the safety of the oral use of the pitcher plant, right? That's what it says, just because there's not a lot of studies. And we run into that a lot with botanicals. And then we have to look at risk and benefits. Like, is this a toxic plant? Can it do harm versus, is it safe to take, but it might not work? Pregnancy and lactation, avoid using because we don't know. And this, I'm going to zoom in on this. So this paper, and you guys have a PDF handout on this, is really cool. So this is when doctors weren't shadow banned and silenced, and they could actually talk about things and not get in trouble or reported, and actually help patients and like find new ways, to stuff. So, but this is cool. So this doctor writes into the British Medical Journal and says, I've used the deduction in 2 other cases with similar effects. The effect of Sarcenia purpura in these cases seems to agree with the account of its properties given by Mr. H. Chalmers Miles, which in the Lancet. So Miles was the guy that really liked to use it. Though all cases were simple variety, yet even in these cases, the pustules generally burst, scab, occasionally pit, and the disease much longer continuous. In each instant, the patient felt better after taking the first dose. On the 3rd day, the pustules have formed and died. Only one had formed a scab from the accident. There was no secondary fever nor pitting in any of these cases. The remedy, I think, is worthy of more general use. IM, etc. So this is where the S. purpura, this is where they think it works. So it helps stop the early transcription, okay? So, and that's where we talked about cidovovir right there. That stops at the genome replication, but that's a trickier one to mass distribute. So this is really cool. And I wish our government would maybe stockpile S. purpura and maybe look into that more, but you can't make it a pharmaceutical. So there's no money. Treatment of smallpox by Sarcenia purpura, and this is in the British Medical Journal. So this is basically the Charles Millspaugh described. The Native Americans of Eastern North America used it as a poultice against smallpox. And in herbal terms, a poultice is basically when you mash it up and then you spread it, then you put it on the skin, okay? And that's, where we talked about earlier with smallpox, they think increased mortality or death rate is the more pox you have, the more rash. So, and then this study, they also looked at Echinacea astragalus, Coryllius, and Glorisia, which is licorice root. Botanical extracts also tested in the study was not shown to be helpful. And that's a bummer because I really like astragalus and I really like licorice root because those helped with other viruses a lot. Echinacea is good for influenza, but they're different viruses, different families. So this was like not, I was bummed when I read this report of a trial of Sarcenia purpura of the pitcher plant in the smallpox. And this was in 1963. So this is a bummer. This guy kept using it. I was reading it late at night and the people kept dying. And I was like, oh man, maybe he didn't use it right. I don't know. Okay. I can try to turn on and off the presentation PDF again. Okay. Sometimes I feel like it gets a little weird. So before we end, I'll see what's going on with that. Okay. So this was another study, in vivo characteristics of a 19th century therapy for smallpox. And our work demonstrates that the in vivo characterization of Sarcenia purpura as the first effective inhibitor of pox virus replication at the level of early viral transcription, which is that picture I showed you earlier. With a renewed threat of pox virus-related infections, our results indicated it may act as another defensive measure against orthopox viruses. So, I mean, I think when we look at that, why is no one talking about this? Why are they not trying it? It's very unfortunate. Okay, so another cool thing I found while I was studying was methylene blue, talking about this with orthopox viruses. So methylene blue, it's kind of a biohacker. I don't know if anyone's heard of methylene blue. So I learned about it in the emergency room medicine because it is approved for the treatment of methemoglobinemia, and it's been used for decades for a variety of other purposes. It's actually a blue stain that is used for staining different kinds of things in the labs. And the big biohacker way to use it, a lot of peptide physicians prescribe it and use it, is that methylene blue can help activate sirtuins. And sirtuins are kind of like an anti-aging, longevity kind of thing. So it's also inhibits monooxamine MOA, nitric oxide synthase, and glutamine cyclase. So if you're using it for the purposes of sirtuin, anti-aging, longevity, it's usually 4 milligrams per day dose. It's also used for dementia. So there's some trials using it with dementia. It's really cool stuff. I love peptides and methylene blue and hackers. So why are we talking about it today? So one molecule that they studied, there was a study. It's basically considered a tricyclic phenothiazine compound. Okay. And this molecule was found to inhibit the interaction of COVID virus and target cells in dose-dependent manner. So it's also found to inhibit the interaction of viron within host cells by inhibiting the interaction of the SARS-CoV spike protein and ACE inhibitor receptor interactions. So it did, even though we didn't really hear it about much with COVID, it was mentioned in some studies that I found. This study showed that methylene blue derivatives showed some anti-orthopox viral strategies. So if we look at the structures of the other two, the PAV174 and PAV164, they're similar in structure to methylene blue, which is on the left. And that's what they were exploring. They were looking at these derivatives, and they showed that they had multiple target steps in the life cycle of the pox viruses, which was really cool. And I found another study that methylene blue was also shown to be virucidal against herpes virus, with also light exposure, but eczema, herp tend to come. So this is just another form of herpes virus that could cause Kaposi's, and it's just really interesting because it seems to have some antiviral properties, but we're not looking really at it at all, and low side effects. So that's what these things that we're talking about, they don't have the side effects like the antivirals we were talking about. So nitazoxanide. So NTZ for short. So this was on the FLCCC protocol if as an alternative to ivermectin. But it's super expensive in the United States. It's like $26 a pill. There are some Canadian pharmacies that you can order it from, and they ship from India. Sometimes people have to do this to order rifaximin because it's ridiculously expensive in the United States also. So it's very interesting. So this is actually an approved drug by the FDA for the treatment of diarrhea in patients infected by Cryptosporidium and Giardia. Okay. It's used extensively around the world with minimal toxicity. And why it's probably so expensive here is that we don't get a lot of Cryptosporidium and Giardia infections. You know, those are kind of more rare unless you're looking for them. But it's also reported to have activity in cell culture against many medically important viruses. Okay, so other than smallpox, and it interferes with multiple mechanisms of viral entry, which is a good place to stop viruses. And then the brand name is Alencia. And then the dosing, I would say for small and monkeypox would be similar to the COVID, which was 500 milligrams BID for 5 days. If you're using it for Giardia and Cryptosporidium, it's twice a day for 3 days. So pediatric doses. So this is also used in peds. So why aren't we looking at this? Why isn't someone just like stockpiling this, right? So there's for kids ages 1 to 3, 4 to 11, and 12 and older, and then they would do 3 days is what is indicated for the diarrhea due to Giardia and Cryptosporidium. So were the studies 2008 inhibition of vaccinovirus replication by nizoxamide and virology. So this is like the main paper that really like opened my eyes to this being used for smallpox or monkeypox. So here we report our investigations of impact on the vaccinia virus replication cycle. It inhibits the production, further extending its spectrum activity to the pox virus family, and lots of antiviral effects. And we suggest that the drug blocks specific metabolic adaptations needed for efficient viral reproduction. Our results add it to the list of viruses that are susceptible to NTZ. So the highlights, going through that, it inhibits the vaccine replication, and this occurs after entry, but before the late gene expression. And the mechanism is due to it interfering with metabolic adaptations needed for viral replication. And then this is one of the graphs on how effective it reduces it. And that's the thing, we want to reduce the viral load. That's what antivirals do. Antivirals don't like rid your body of the virus completely, because that's just not how viruses work in our body. Like you will always, like we would joke in med school, we had a professor that would call like mouth like sores herpes the gift that keeps on giving you, because it's always there. It just comes back when your body can't handle it anymore. So that's one thing, if you've had COVID, if you've had, whatever virus, mono, EBV, you're gonna, it's in there. It's just suppressed your body. It's just chilling. Okay. And then is this the same study or another study? Sorry. This is a different one. So this is talking about, yes, this study is interesting because it's talking about all the different viruses, the replication of a broad range of other RNA and DNA viruses. Look at that list. RSV, right? Like what little kids like get sick from all the time, and the vaccine wasn't even effective this year with RSV. Parainfluenza, coronavirus, rotavirus, norovirus, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, dengue fever. I'm not going to read them all. But in cell culture assays. So this is a very low toxicity medication. I wish we could see more clinical trials on this. I would sign up to be in a clinical trial on this. So this would be nice. This 2014, they wanted more research on this. So what about doxycycline? It's thrown in there, if I would have one antibiotic on a desert island, not antiviral, antiparasitic, those I would have other things, but one antibacterial, I would pick doxycycline. It's just, gets a lot of stuff and a lot of bacteria. It has a broad range. And then it also has some antiviral properties that were looked at for clinical trials with COVID. And it also has some anti-inflammatory properties, which most antibiotics do have some anti-inflammatory properties. So that would be one to watch. So immune support. So like what can we do while we're waiting for all of this? So be prepared. So maybe look into having some of those, some of those outside the box things ready that I talked about. Keep your immune system strong, and our gut health is our immune system. Okay, so we need to have our gut health strong. And we have glyphosate, and we have stress, which hurts our gut health, and we have terrible things like antibiotics and all that stuff. So we have to keep our gut health strong. It has to be an ongoing thing. You just can't fix it once and have it be good. Vitamin C, D, zinc, quercetin, NAC. Balance any TH1 and TH2 imbalance, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Meditate, 478 breath work, reduce stress. I have a lot of meditations on my Instagram channel. Get adequate sleep and eat healthy. Reduce sugar and empty calories. So TH1 and TH2, we have our immune response, and if it gets out of balance, like anything out of balance is not good, right? Our hormones are out of balance. We're grumpy, not good. So our immune system needs to be in balance. So we have different cytokines, which is in the top, getting held up there. And then we have our TH1 cells, which is more of a cellular immune response, and TH2, which is more a humoral immune response, and they need to be balanced. Okay, like this is an example of when they get out of balance. We have our TH1 cells and TH2, and this is a whole nother lecture, but I wanted to just give you a little insight. So when we have TH1, if it's too much or hyperactive, then we could have like Hashimoto's thyroiditis, right? Your TH1 and TH2 are out of balance for whatever reason, and you can create a disease, whether it's gut health, stress, an infection like mono. COVID is really wrecking people's TH1 and TH2 balance, because I'm seeing a lot of crazy things. And then parasites can disturb this balance. And then the other side, the TH2 cells, if that is overreactive, then you can end up, either Graves or a thyroiditis. All right, so this one I wanted to bring up is a peptide. One of my favorite. It's now a medication. Also, it's like a $20,000 drug. Thymosin alpha 1. So thymosin alpha 1 alone, like it decreases antiviral protein synthesis. This was with hepatitis. Also, there's many studies about it being helpful with COVID-19. And do we look at this as a consideration for smallpox? If this does become an issue, monkey and smallpox, or the little outbreaks we have now, why don't we try different things? Why don't we see if they do have different autoimmune diseases, or if they have a balance of their TH1 and TH2 system? So food supplements that support gut health and immune health. I'm just going to go through this quickly so I have time for questions. So for children, make sure you're filling the gaps with a multivitamin. Make sure they're getting the recommended daily values of vitamins and minerals. When they're ill, supplement them with extra zinc, quercetin, vitamin D, vitamin C, if they're not getting enough from food sources. And try to limit their sugar and dairy when they're sick, or eliminate it. And just let them rest. They know what to do. Kids are good when they get sick. So multivitamin, omega-3, double that C and zinc. NAC, quercetin is in the Histase Junior. I always give that extra to my kids if they're sick. Exclair nasal spray, because any virus is going to replicate in the nose and the back of the throat. And then this you guys will have in the handout. This is all the recommended daily allowances for ages. So zinc inhibits viral binding. It's a potent immunoregulatory and antiviral properties. Zinc's so important. It's good for ADHD kids. It's important in testosterone production. You need zinc. And you need zinc in copper balance too. So there's all this stuff. So vegans, they're low. That's a whole nother story. Don't eat Beyond Meat. It's gross. Okay. Vitamin D. So vitamin D, pro-hormone, basically anti-inflammatory. Oh gosh, found like receptors are found in like every single organ in your body. Notoriously low in Ohio. Vitamin C or vitamin D you're going to get from the sun, but if you live in cloudy Ohio or something, you want to make sure you're eating more foods that have vitamin D or you're supplementing. And sometimes you might have to supplement. And those are risk factors for deficiency. Okay. Vitamin C, antiviral properties, supports lymphocytic activity. It modulates our cytokine. It reduces inflammation, helps with endothelial dysfunction, which when you have a virus like COVID, especially, you're going to have endothelial dysfunction, and it helps repair your mitochondria. Why are we not giving IV vitamin C to every person in the hospital? I don't know. Foods high in vitamin C. Look at peppers are really high, and oranges are actually second. We should all be having pepper juice in the morning. That'd be gross, but be better than orange juice. Okay. Omega-3s, dietary sources, fish, oysters, flaxseed, chia, walnuts. Okay, so closing thoughts. What are the fatality rates of smallpox and monkeypox now? We don't know, right? It was eradicated in the 1977, the last, or eradicated in the 80s. 77 was the last case. So we don't know. It's different. Medicine's different now. Our environment's different. Who knows? Maybe it would be worse because our environment's so toxic now. So new drug side effects and never tested on patients with smallpox and monkeypox. Okay. So I don't know if you guys picked up on that. The new drugs have not gone through those clinical tests because there haven't been people with smallpox to test them on, except there's that random clinical trial in Oregon, which is super interesting. So it's another consideration versus those other medication, antiparasitics, antivirals, botanicals, methylene blue, different things that aren't going to have really high side effects. Underlying health problems, those with smallpox, to those people with the smallpox that had the high mortality rates, what kind of underlying diseases they have. Are we just looking at numbers from Africa where they don't live in, really good conditions, that kind of stuff. They don't have, vitamins, minerals. They have deficiencies in A and C. Those with smallpox vax history, how will they do now? That's something that we don't know. So there's a lot of unknowns. I really think when I was preparing this PowerPoint, I think that, knowledge is power. It would be a good thing to just keep on your computer and bring up, and you can look to see what's going on with those different antivirals. Especially good to have because, things change and web pages change their ideas. So I think that, like I said, a lot of unknowns. I wanted to do this presentation because I can't talk about it on Instagram because then I can't just do teaching to help people be healthy because it won't get out there. So that's why I wanted to have this so we could just all discuss it. Let me see. You guys all know all my info. Oh, this I didn't get into. So someone messaged me this homeopathy page and I looked at it. It was really cool. Basically, the second link, the bioterrorism homeopathy, it might be interesting just to read through if you feel like prepping. They had like anthrax in there and all sorts of stuff. So just kind of interesting. I really like homeopathy. I think that it is low risk, high reward. It works, like a lot of it. Like you can't tell me that arnica doesn't work because it works. It's not a placebo. And that's the thing, if it is a placebo and you're just having a sugar pill, it's not doing any harm, and you're spending your money on something that is not FDA approved and you're okay with it. So that might be something to look into. And then also it's really interesting, this Emergent Biosolutions, like how they're buying up all this smallpox stuff. I tried, maybe some of you are better at investigating stuff because I tried to see if like any of the big players owned the company or something. I wanted to like find something, but I couldn't do it. So maybe one of you can. And there are my references. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, let's go to questions. All right. Do they have any idea if the smallpox vaccine will even work on monkeypox? So yes, they're thinking about 85% effective against that because that's the same family. So that would probably be the best bet is maybe just get the old school vaccine. That's probably if it was really becoming a threat, that's what I would do with my family. Is probably if the mortality rates are still 10% to 20%, just get the old school vaccine, and then prepare your immune system before, prepare it after. Could the virus mutate? So DNA viruses are they don't like to mutate much. No, they're lazy. I mean, they're not like RNA. It's not like COVID. um Oops, okay. Where can you get the binder shaken protein? Oh, so that you could go to the Healthology by Dr. Jen, and maybe I'll put up on my website a little bit specific for the actual protocol or the bundle. But it's the Inflamma Shake and the Binder Pro up there, and that's what I use. I love them. I'd have to look if the nitisinamide can be used breastfeeding. Um, yes. So breastfeeding mothers, it is harder. So I'll look into that one. But yeah, pitcher plant, it's not recommended. Most botanicals are not recommended. And also when you're breastfeeding, if it comes to a situation where you are, looking at the risk versus harms, like quercetin, like there's not tons of studies on quercetin in breastfeeding, but generally it's healthy. Okay. It depends on how old the infant is too. Okay, let me see here. Okay, does everyone, let me look through these questions real quick. Okay, can everyone can everyone see the downloads? There's 3 of them under handouts. Because you also should get a link for, okay, so just Tracy can't. You also should get a link for the can't print. What do you mean print? Can you save it? Oh, the old school vaccine. I mean, it's not FD. It's going to be the AS 3000, but it's not that one. Is not the old school one. I don't think we can get that. It's in other countries. The U.S. only has those 2 approved, so we can't. It's kind of like how we can't get measles by itself anymore or mumps by itself anymore. Okay, good. It seems like, okay, good. Everyone's finding the downloads. Someone sees only 2 downloads. They're all live. So if you can't see all the downloads, refresh and then go back. Okay, let's see. I saw some more questions up here. I use red light therapy on him now. Red light. Oh, yeah, that's really interesting because they didn't have those modalities back then. So yeah, red light. I like Jumbo Red, and I did a podcast with him a while back, and that would probably help with like mitochondrial health and repair while you're sick. So that would probably really help if you did have an infection like this, or maybe even if you had the vaccine and you wanted to put it on there. That's the thing. We are just in a different place now. So always wonder. Methylene blue with herpes simplex cold sores. Oh, methylene blue, no, not 18 and older. Used on a child. So no, but herpes maybe. I mean, lysine is good. Work on their gut health. If someone's getting recurrent, stress, if someone's getting recurrent viruses. Making sure I'm not missing any questions. Let's see. I thought I saw one other one. Okay, so Amish Waze had stock yesterday. Someone purchased the plant from Killer Plant Company, and they had them 3 days ago. Someone got the oils and seeds, and it never came. Yeah, there's a homeopathic too. If you've had the smallpox vaccine already, should you be covered for monkeypox? So yeah, we think so. We think it's about like 85% effective, but it just hasn't been tested. Can this become a pandemic? I don't know. When I was digging through all of the information, I really was getting frustrated because it just seemed weird. I don't like it. I'm not happy about the timelines and everything. It's like they think people are dumb. I also don't like the fact that we had a biological weapon and we couldn't get rid of it all, and we couldn't. And a lot of the reasons why we're keeping it is because we want to get technology to fight if someone uses a biowarfare. So it's just unfortunate the world is so bad. Can you rewatch this later? Yes, absolutely. Best place to get methylene blue. A compounding pharmacy. You usually should have to get it with a prescription. I like to order it from an actual compounding pharmacy. So you might have to go through a doctor for that, because otherwise it's just, you don't know the quality or what you're getting. It makes me nervous. ACAM 2000 old school. Yeah, so that's what's available in the US. And that is what, kids could get. And that's more of the old school one, yes. Because the new one, the Genuvius one, whatever it's called again, that one is only 18 and over. Homeopathic, I got it from HomeoMart on Amazon, and that was in December that I just got it just to have it. How much of the Esperpera would you have for a family of 6? I don't know. I only got 2 vials because I don't know the shelf life. So it's hard to say. And the old studies, they were talking about using vials and like using like a whole vial on one person. But that one that I was reading, I felt like their vials weren't good because that was the one that like everyone died. So, but I don't know what was going on there. So, titer testing for smallpox, not that I know of. And because it's just not who's getting it. So, I mean, maybe there's some lab that does it and you have to put it on dry ice and ship it far away. But that might be hard. Yeah, Tara thinks it might be a pandemic. Well, but here's the thing. So, and unfortunately, it sucks like that it's becoming a thing again. And it might be just conspiracy theory. Who knows? But it might happen. And it's medical. So that's why I want everyone to be prepared and know what's out there and know the treatments, and keep your family safe and have a plan, talk with your family like, what are we going to do if this becomes an issue? We have this, we're going to take the risk, we're going to wait and see the mortality rates. We're going to get the vax when it's available. Okay. And then Lou said there are titers. Wow, you never converted when you were younger. Okay. So yeah, but I don't know where you would, I'm sure there's titers, but I don't think they're readily available. Like maybe even Quest. I don't know. That's one thing I didn't look up. All right. Well, I hope that was helpful. And then you guys should all be getting an email with a replay. And thank you for joining. I have fun putting these lectures together. It's fun to learn all about it. So, and especially because I feel like I want to share it. I could try to maybe share more if I find more information on social media, but I don't know. I'd have to be really cryptic because I got a warning on my last post. So you're welcome, everyone. So now you guys are all prepared. And yeah, so I like this. Let me go back. So what you guys are dizzy. So this is That's what I'm looking at right there. So I really like the research I read with that drug. So okay, awesome guys. Bye. Thanks again for joining, and I'll see you guys next time.